and avoid predatory journals. You're all aware that with hundreds of predatory journals appearing and disappearing on our regular, on our platforms or in our mails every day, researchers need to be vigilant in their approach to unfamiliar publishers. So while predatory journals can be difficult to define and identify, there are some common distinguishing characteristics that today we are going to learn from this webinar. So this morning we have Iryna Kuchma from EIFL. EIFL is Electronic Information from Libraries. She is the open access manager for EIFL. And then we have Tom, who is also coming from DOAJ. DOAJ is Directory of Open Access Journals. This webinar is organized by EIFL together with CARLIGH. CARLIGH is the Consortium of Academic and Research Libraries in Ghana. And quite a lot of the members and the management members team, they are all listening, they are here. So we're going to start right away with a presentation. And if you have any question, we'll put it on the Q&A and then we will move from there. So at this time, we will invite, welcome all of you on board, and then we welcome Iryna to talk. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Richard. Good morning, dear colleagues. Thanks a lot for this opportunity to talk. So I'll start, and then Tom, who is editor-in-chief of the Directory of Open Access Journals, will continue. And please, for your questions, use Q&A. You can see it between participants and polls on your menu. And if you have any issues or if you have any comments, you can put them in a chat. So please, Q&A for questions, chat for any other issues or thoughts. And I hope you can see my slides in full screen now. So it's about identifying and assessing open access journals and publishers. And I would like to start with Directory of Open Access Journals, because that's, for me, the primary place to go and check the quality of a journal if I have doubts, or to find a journal in my area if I want to publish in. And in DOAJ, you can either search journals, or you can also search journal articles and also find useful materials for your work if you are doing research. And when you're searching for journals, you can refine your search. So for example, you can say, I'm only interested in journals that do not charge article processing charges, or I'm only interested in journals in English language because it's an international directory. It has 14,894 journals from 133 countries. So not all of them are in English, but it has a very good search functionality. And you can also browse subjects and find journals in your area. It's really hard to get listed in the Directory of Open Access Journals because every journal that applies goes through a rigorous review process. And there are certain criteria to be listed. So you can see on the screen some of them, especially in the second part, which says that information about editorial board, including institutional affiliations of all members, should be clearly stated on the journal website. Peer review process should be clearly described. as well as other journal policies, including charges if a journal charges article submission or article processing charges. There is also a requirement to have an editor and editorial board, and they should be listed on the website. And all articles must pass through a quality control system before publication. And type and details of the peer review process might be stated clearly on the website. When a journal applies, there is an online application form, and it includes almost 60 questions. And at least 3 people on the DOAJ team check and review application and get in touch with the journal if there are some questions on or issues. So it's really a very good quality control process, and you must be assured that if you see a journal listed in DOAJ, then you shouldn't question the quality of the journal. But there is a problem though with African journals, because I was trying to find how many journals from West Africa are on DOAJ, and unfortunately I didn't find a lot. So I know that there are many more journals than listed on the DOAJ, and maybe the reasons were that they didn't apply, or maybe there were some issues with their application and they haven't been approved. So for African journals, you would need other tools to check the quality, and one of them could be AJOL, African Journals Online. And the Director of Open Access Journals lists open access journals only. AJOL lists all journals from Africa. So as you can see, they have 526 journals. Out of them, 264 are open access journals. And they have journals from 32 African countries. And they have quite a number of journals from Ghana. And when you are on the country page, you can see a small icon which says rating in progress, working towards quality star. At some point, AJOL thought that they would try to rank African journals according to certain criteria, which are not as high as DOAJ criteria, but still show an indicator of quality. And they set up this website, journalquality.info, and a 3-star ranking system. And they only did this assessment in March 2019. So I don't know, maybe they assessed before, but March 2019 is the latest when they did it. So as you can imagine, it's already a year and a half old. So maybe some journals which are ranked high are not really publishing anymore. But still, if you can see that a journal is listed on AJOL and has 1-2 stars, it means that it has certain quality. So I looked at journals from Ghana, and there were some journals pending, there were some journals which are inactive, there were some journals without stars, and 4 of them were with 1 star. But actually only 5 journals on AJOL have 2 stars and none 3 stars. So maybe one star is still okay. For international journals, for publications outside Africa, it's good to check, if we talk about open access journals, whether a publisher is a member of a professional association. And for open access journals, the professional association is OASPA, Open Access Scholarly Publishers Association. And I usually go to their membership page and check whether a journal is whether a publisher is a member. And if a publisher is a member, then it means that it's a quality publisher, because again, if you want to join OASPA as a member, you have to go through rigorous quality review process. So that's another sign of quality. And this is how the members page look like. And there is also Committee on Publication Ethics. And it's also a professional body that ensures quality and ethical standards in journal publishing. And they also have members page, so you can see that they have 12,933 members. So that's another way to check for international publishers. But of course, here the issues are that if you join OASPA or if you join COPE, you have to pay. So there are still many good journals who and publishers who are not members, only because membership fees are really high for them to allow to join. So if you don't see a publisher listed on OASPA as a OASPA or COPE member, again, it doesn't mean it's a bad publisher. It might just mean that publisher doesn't have enough resources to allow membership. That's why, again, we need some other ways to measure quality. So for example, if we checked Director of Open Access Journals and we couldn't find a journal, we checked Agile, we checked OASPA, we check COPE. One more way is to follow Think, Check, Submit checklist. And these are just a set of questions that you as an author or you as a person who is advising authors should answer before you make a publication choice. So for researchers, it's really important to read any article in the journal before to make sure that the quality is relevant. It's also useful to check whether it's easy to discover the latest paper in the journal. Is it easy to identify contact information about the publisher? Whether publisher name is clearly displayed on the journal website? Is it possible to contact the publisher by email or by phone? Is it clear what type of peer review a journal uses? Are articles indexed in any services that you use as a researcher or as a librarian? If a journal charges any fees, is it clearly explained what these fees are and when they will be charged? And then for researchers, it's also good to check editorial board members, because if you don't recognize a single name on the editorial board, maybe it's not the best editorial board. And of course, it's important that there are institutional affiliations of board members. And then there are also questions about membership in professional associations or being part of Agile or Nepal journals online or Bangladesh journals online or Mongolia journals online and other sister projects. Recently, Think, Check, Submit also released a checklist for books, because many of us receive invitations to publish books and book chapters with publishers, and it's really helpful to go through this checklist before considering. And the questions are similar to Think, Check, Submit list for journals. Do you or your colleagues know the publisher? Have you read any books or chapters? Is it easy to discover those books? Do you recognize any editors? Can you contact the editor? Is the publisher name clearly displayed? What kind of peer review they use? Do they involve independent external reviewers? Do they have an expert editorial board by researchers who are experts in your area? Are those books indexed in any services that you use? Is there a long-term archiving and preservation agreement with OAPEN or CLOCKS? Is it clearly explained how a publisher is financially supported? What is a business model for publishing books? And again, if fees are charged, what types of fees are charged and how much? Are there any waivers for authors from the Global South, for example? Are there guidelines for authors on publisher website? Is the publisher clear about contracts and royalty agreements, if that is applicable? Is it clear what types of rights you'll have as an author? So for example, are you allowed to put a copy of your book in your institutional repository? Is there a conflict of interest policy? Is it clear what kind of services a publisher offers to authors? For example, is there copy editing, marketing services, some others? And then whether a publisher is a member of COPE or ESPAM. And for those of you who are like Richard, involved in assessing quality of journals and publishers, these are some of the actions you can take in addition. So for example, if you checked all the resources that I listed before and you still have doubts, I think it's important to keep evidences of your correspondence with a journal, especially if you have evidences of peer review or any other type of editorial support and control that a publisher did for you. I think this is the type of information that would be useful for Richard and other people assessing the quality of journals, because then if there was a very valuable and high quality peer review, and if a journal isn't listed in any of the resources I mentioned before, you can still see that it's a good quality journal, and maybe you can recommend this journal to apply for DOAJ. And maybe you also have any other suggestions, but now I'll give the floor to Tom, and then we'll answer your comments and questions, and I hope we can have a discussion. So I'm muting for now.
Okay, thank you, Iryna. Can you hear me? Everything fine? Yes, I wanted to talk about DOAJ, what we do, and Iryna has explained that we are a directory of open access journals, quality open access journals. But we also have a definition, and it's important to go through definitions of what predatory publishers are. Those are publishers which are not living up to reasonable standards of content, services, transparency about prices, for example, or peer review processes, and business behavior. Publishers who are from India operating and having an address in the States or things like that, or that you can't find out where the website is registered. So the next slide. Can you advance?
Yes, sorry, it's stuck. I don't know why.
Okay.
Let me try. Yeah, I think now it advances. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So there has been also recently last year an official definition of predatory journals, what they are. And the idea was, if there is no definition, then everybody's talking about something else. And there is not a real organized defense against predatory practices. This is the result of a conference that was organized in Canada last year and resulted in a paper in Nature. And the definition that they this group reached was that predatory journals are entities that prioritize the self-interest at the expense of scholarship. So it's really about doing something on purpose. And they are characterized by false, misleading information, deviation from best editorial practices, lack of transparency, and often also the use of aggressive and indiscriminate solicitation practices. And aggressive means by just sending emails out all the time. Do you want to be an editor? Do you want to publish in our journal? We can let you publish without any fees, and you know, these kind of things. Next, please. Hope it advances.
Struggling again.
Oh, what did I do with my slides?
I don't know. Maybe if it repeats, then maybe I'll stop sharing and you'll share. Sorry about that. Yeah, maybe that's better.
It doesn't work.
No, it didn't, sir. So do you want to share on your end, or shall I just try again?
Look. Let me see.
Sorry about that. So it's share screen.
Yeah, but I have to go. Where is the present thing?
No, you just share. Oh, yes, and then.
No, I have to go for my file here. Sorry. Slideshow.
Because if you want,
From the current site.
I can try again on my end, if that's easier.
Yeah, I'm almost there. Sorry. So,
looks like there is some time limit. They've been doing this for 20 minutes and.
Is it?
No, I'm just kidding.
But I can't do it. Sorry. I think
yeah,
I get the screen all the time, but then I lose the connection with the webinar.
Yeah, I think now it advances. So let's hope it will work.
Okay. So it's very important to see that there are differences between predatory and questionable, questionable, as you can call it, and low quality journals. And this difference is mainly that the predatory journals are there to take advantage of researchers and to do things on purpose to just gain money, not doing anything in the interest of science or sharing knowledge. And low quality journals may look like predatory journals because they don't have high quality science, because perhaps they lack certain procedures, best practices. They have not a very good peer review, but still we make a difference as DOAJ between predatory and low qualities, because predatory journals, we will not allow them to be included in the DOAJ ever. And the low quality journals, we will do our best to help those journals to become better. And usually within 6 months or 1 year, we can just coach them into the way to do a proper journal editing and to do a proper publication process. Yes, we can continue again.
I can imagine it's stuck again.
Probably could do then.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll stop share for a minute. Maybe I'll just close and open again.
Perhaps that's just the trick.
Sorry about this. And it's not a large file, so it shouldn't be an issue.
No, it shouldn't be an issue. No, that's too advanced still. So this is the definition of DOAJ low quality publishers. Publishers who publish low quality due to inadequate peer review, just to low standards of professionalism. And the editors or peer reviewers may just be from one institute. I mean, if you have an institute, a department of fishery, and there is a journal for fisheries, then all the editors are from that same institute, same building. That will not be a very good journal because there is not much control and the people are too close to each other to be enough critical of each other and of the things that are being published. Yeah, we go on. I hope.
Yeah, maybe if we don't use presentation mode.
Yeah, and just go into the smaller mode and so on.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a problem. So you won't be able to see it that well, but at least I think we can advance slides.
Yes. Okay.
So is it readable?
Yes, for me it is, I hope. So there is also a difference in how we view predatory publishing. So everybody knows, all of you know, that it's a problem that is really painted in the media. The big newspapers telling a lot about how bad it is. And I think we have to be very careful about these articles saying that the predatory publishing is such a big problem, because most of the time they also link predatory publishing to open access. And this means that open access gets a reputation as being predatory in principle, which is of course not true, because all the open access journals that DOAJ examines have a very good quality. And many of those journals are also in existing databases like Scopus already. So the big problem of predatory publishing is that it shouldn't be linked to open access as such, but of course it becomes more visible because open access journals are reachable for everybody. And you also should just remember that open access is in principle not linked to a low quality. And the other thing that you have to remember is that charging a fee for a journal or for an article is not a criteria for saying this is a predatory journal. This is also what we hear a lot of the times. Okay, this is a journal that charges APC, so it must be predatory. This is not true. Predatory is when journals charge APCs, but they don't deliver the services like peer reviewing or other services that you can expect to get. So you can get to the next one without full screen. So the real picture is that the predatory publishing is not only in open access journals, but it's also a metrics thing. So there has been a report that is widely refereed all the time, and it's cited by everyone. And they say that the number of questionable publishers or predatory publishers increases in an alarming rate for it's always cited this study of 2014 that you had 3,200 publishers and 121,000 articles, but not 420,000 and 8,000 journals. So it means that the numbers that you can see linked to predatory publishing are much exaggerated, and it's picked up by the media with haste, because they think, okay, this corroborates our view of predatory publishing being very, very important part of publishing, and especially open access. This is not true, because in non-open access journals there are many, many articles that are being withdrawn. Look at the examples in this slide. And it's a common sentence. Retraction Watch shows you a lot of the examples of not so good publishing, and even you can call it predatory publishing, in journals that are not open access. Because what is the difference between a journal that charges for a subscription and gives you a very bad quality, and a journal that charges APC in open access and gives you a bad quality? There really is not a big difference there. So the next one. So the conclusion is that the percentage of good quality journals in open access and in subscription journals is comparable. This is what I take from the facts. The number of subscription journals known in the world, the number of open access journals estimated, and the journals that are really quality controlled by Scopus, Web of Science, or by the DOAJ. There is not a big difference, but we have, of course, to get rid of this bad quality journals. The best way to do it is go to the next slide. Is to list the good quality journals, I think, because the list will be inclusive. Everything that is not in the list can be good, but everything that is in the list is good. And the listing of the good quality journals also means that you are, it's difficult to get on, what Iryna already said. If you list predatory journals in a list, then it's never inclusive. There may be many, many that are, that are outside and very, very bad. You miss them and you think they are good. It's also very difficult to get off that list. And this is because there is lots of the times there's not a real good system of saying why a journal is on the list. And if it's placed on a list of a predatory journal, then it will stick there, and this kind of reputation will also stick much better than the reputation of a good journal. And that's why Cameron Neylon has written a very nice article that when you have the time, please read it. In the LSE blogs, it says that blacklists, and we don't call them blacklists, I know now, are technically infeasible and practically unreliable and also unethical. And that is the reason that I think the best way to avoid predatory publishers is to see what journals are listed in Scopus, in Web of Science, or in the DOAJ. So that is my slide series with a bit of problems. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tom, and I should be apologizing for problems because they were on my end.
I don't know, perhaps I put something in so that you couldn't advance the thing.
So we have two questions in the Q&A already. So Fred is writing, is it also not possible that authors are not always victims of predatory publishing, but can be culprits too? And then another question from Fred. Please, what is the ideal process to avoid falling prey to predatory publishing in a real case scenario? Locate a journal first and familiarize with the requirements and then respond to their call, or conduct the study based on an identified need and then look for where to publish?
So, yeah, shall we do the questions? I think the first question is a good question. It's authors are not always victims. I mean, it's also, if you are a scientist, it's unthinkable that you are just falling into traps, because Think, Check, Submit, which you have seen in this presentation, is giving common sense guidelines on how to avoid. So if you are a young researcher and you start thinking about publishing, what makes more sense than just ask your superiors or other students, where did you publish? And also look at those journals and look at them. How do they look? What impression do they give? If you don't know a journal, and if you don't know anybody who published in a journal and can report back on you, to you, then you are not a victim. It's your own fault. So it's, yeah, I think this is the answer to that question. Iryna, you want to answer the other question?
Yeah, I guess it depends. I would say that, again, I was doing my research many years ago. When I was doing my research, I already knew what are respected journals in my area. So I had a publication plan, which I discussed with my PhD supervisor. And before I started writing an article, I checked all the journal requirements, because of course different journals might have different requirements, how you should submit your article. So I would say find a journal first, or a number of journals, create a rating system, in which journal you would like to publish most, start with it. If there are some issues, if your article is rejected, then you can always try with another journal, which is maybe which has a different scope, or maybe not a flagship journal in your area, but still has a very good readership. But I'm sure other researchers, like it's always, I also discuss it with my colleagues, with my supervisor. So there are always people who are ready to help.
Yeah, but I think that the trap that you have here is that people want to publish, and most of the time they want to publish in a very reputable journal from America or Europe or whatever, and then they just try that and it doesn't work. And there are seemingly journals that have the same kind of names as those journals, and then they just submit there and think that they publish in a good journal without checking with their colleagues. What you have to remember probably is, where do you want to make an impact for your research? If you do research in agriculture or medical research in your country, in Africa, then you would like your people in your country and in Africa as a whole to know about your research. And the best way to do that is to publish in an African journal. And how do you know that an African journal is okay? Then you go back to what Iryna started with, the HOL list, the DOAJ list. Then you are absolutely sure that people have checked on the quality of that journal. And if it's your interest to be heard and to be that your research is being used, then I would advise not just to go for the big shots in the journal landscape, but to try as much as possible to promote the journals in Africa itself.
Then Samuel has a question. Please, if journal doesn't charge APC, does it mean it's low quality? Moreover, is a journal questionable if an author publishes most often in it? So to answer your first question, I think over 60 or 70% of journals which are listed on DOAJ don't charge APCs. So APC isn't an indicator for quality. It's just one of the business models. So some journals charge article processing charges. Some journals are supported by funders or by governments or by their institutions, and they don't need to charge authors. Some journals don't charge because they are against this model of charging authors. So you shouldn't use an APC as a quality indicator. And I don't know about the second one. I mean, if a journal has high quality peer review, and if you're a good author, if you write high quality articles, then I guess it's not a problem if your articles are published more than once. But then it's also a question, I mean, realistically, how many good articles can you write as an author per year? Probably, I don't know, no more than 4. Again, I'm not an expert in every research area. My background is sociology. So probably in sociology, even 4 would be hard because you really need to do a qualitative research. So I don't know.
But depending on the discipline, probably, how many articles. But I would also say that if an author publishes most often in it, that is not a sign of questionable publishers. But one of the signs of a questionable publisher can be that the editor of a journal is publishing a lot in the journal. And that just to have a high volume, make it seem as if the journal is attracting a lot of authors and making an impression of being a good journal, trying to just lure researchers into this for this journal. So that if the name of an author is the editor, and you see that 3 of the 4 articles in the volume are with that editor, then yeah, that can be a sign of questionable journals.
And then Theodosia has an interesting question. Please, aside the quality process explained earlier on, what are the ways you check a journal before you decide to peer review for them? I always, my approach is only to peer review open access journals. So I usually check when I receive an invitation, I usually check whether it's an open access journal or subscription-based journal. And if it's a subscription-based journal, I just say, thank you for asking, but my policy is that I don't peer review for non-open access journals. Then if it's an open access journal, I check what other articles this journal published in case I haven't read any articles before, because usually I'm asked as an expert in this area. And if I've never heard of this journal, if I've never read any articles, it's good to check. And I only had bad experience when I was asked to peer review for a medical journal. And as you heard, my background is not medical at all. But all other invitations that I received were like real invitations from high quality journals. So it was easy for me. And I don't know what others do in this. Yeah, and also another thing that I think is important, more and more journals started printing or making available names of peer reviewers, for example, in the end of the year, or listing names of peer reviewers on a journal, because I'm a big fan of open peer review. And if there is also a way to prove that I peer reviewed for this journal, for example, if I need to report about my research activities, and I can also not only say that I peer reviewed for these journals, but there is a proof. If there is a place on a journal where my name is listed as a name of peer reviewer, then I think it's helpful for me as a researcher.
Yeah, Iryna, from my experience too, what happens is that sometimes you go through all these things, go to check all the platforms that are available, but sometimes you still struggle. So with my experience, what I do is that sometimes I go to Google and then put the name of the journal there, and I ask, is a question. So I put, let's say, Journal of Science and Technology, then I put a credible with a question. And sometimes other information will come up that journal has been discussed, whether good or bad. So sometimes it also helps you to know whether it's good or not good, or what people are discussing about that particular journal. Even though you may not use that one as a basis for, saying good or bad, but at least you have a fair idea of whether you to sell yourself into or put yourself into that environment, or send your journal, your paper into that environment. Thank you.
And then Prosper has a comment, why don't we invite these predators and train them to do the right thing? I think Tom made a good distinguish that predatory journals are not well intended. So I don't think we should be wasting our time dealing with them. But what we do in Directory of Open Access Journals, we spend a lot of time and effort to improve the quality of good journals, which haven't explained this good quality on their journal web pages. Because I live in Ukraine and I work with Ukrainian journals, and sometimes it's just an issue of language, that they have a very good page in Ukrainian, but what they have in English is really poorly written. And of course it shouldn't be like that, but maybe they haven't even realized that there is an issue, and when DOAJ comes and points to some issues that could be easily improved and presented better, it helps a journal, it helps the readers, because if a journal is listed in DOAJ, readership is increased tremendously. So we're spending time on low quality journals, or good quality journals which are not marketed well, but we don't really spend time on predatory journals. And do you have anything else to add, Tom?
No, I think so. I go through some questions like, I think that is a very relevant question. What is a recommendation to people who early in their careers publish in journals that were later classified as predatory? I think, yeah, you cannot do very much, but depending on how long ago it was, and if it's 20 years ago, it's difficult, of course. But if you find out about a predatory journal, and then you can always say that you want to retract your article. And they may just refuse to do it, but at least then you keep the documentation that you have asked for retraction. And then you can also check with the OASPA and with the DOAJ and Scopus if the journal is anywhere listed, so that even if some say it's predatory, perhaps it isn't, and by mistake or because we haven't checked it with enough vigilance to to know about it, you may just alert DOAJ or any other list to a predatory publisher that we have listed and that we didn't know was having this practice. So if you find out anything about the journal by whatever means, check if it's anywhere listed and see if you can become delisted, retract your article, and alert the indexing services or other services to that fact, I would say. And the next question about does DOJ make available journals and publishers that became delisted, removed? The answer is no. We have a public list that you can see which journals have been accepted and when. But we don't have a public list of the journals that have become removed.
Yeah, and to answer Nina's question, you mentioned using Scopus Web of Science or DOAJ as sources of reputable journals, but what happens if you don't have access to Scopus of Web of Science? I graduated from a Ukrainian university, and we never had access to Scopus of Web of Science. Like even in Academy of Sciences where I worked, we also didn't have access to Scopus of Web of Science. I think now with DOAJ answers this question for those who would like to publish in open access journals, because that's the most comprehensive list of quality open access journals.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get the list of journals from Scopus and Web of Science, the names without all the details, or articles or whatever. So there is the possibility to check if a journal is in Scopus or Web of Science. And you also have recently have these emerging titles from the Web of Science. And I'm not so sure, but I imagine that it may be free to access. To see more details for those ones. The Web of Science has a specific part emerging titles or sources. And I know there is one for Egypt, for example. So you may be able to access it. But the answer to the question is, if you have open access that you want to publish, then go to the Directive Open Access Journals. That has by far the most inclusive coverage of all the journals that are open access. We have, if you follow our blogs, you can find that there is an overlap between Scopus, Web of Science, and the DOJ in open access journals. But there is also a large discrepancy. So we list 8,000 more journals in open access than Scopus or Web of Science. And those journals are most of the time from global south countries, from or journals that are in Spanish or French or Portuguese or whatever other language, even Farsi, Hindi. That is, we are more inclusive, so you can find out about open access journals and qualities best by going to the DOAJ.
And the next question, fees charged by COPE and OASPA can be disincentive for low quality journals' attempts to improve content and be more visible. How can they help such journals? I don't think it's their mission to help such journals because they are a professional association, so they have their goals and a role to play. But maybe that's a mission for library consortia, because we had projects with our partner library consortia in some other countries, in Serbia, for example, to work with local journals to help them to register in DOAJ, to provide some policy templates, to do some trainings, and it really worked well, and it was beneficial for the consortium because then they were sure that all quality journals from a country are listed in DOAJ. So if that's something that CARLIGH would like to do, I'll be happy to work on that. And I'm sure Tom and other people from DOAJ would also be willing to help.
So that is part of the mission. Yeah.
Yeah, and another question, beyond the fact that the journal publishes classified predatory, should the quality of the article itself not be taken into consideration? Yeah, I don't know. I think a journal is there to really provide feedback and recommendations for improvements. Because usually predatory journals don't even invest into any type of peer review or editorial work. And then I don't see a point of publishing with them, because then you can just put a copy of an article as a preprint in the repository and make it available and disseminate it. But I think the idea is to get this peer review feedback and quality stamp, which you wouldn't get from predatory one.
So you may miss some information that may be interesting and that has been published in the Predatory journal. But that in taking into consideration doesn't mean that you have to acknowledge that the Predatory journal should have a role in the publishing landscape. We should really discourage predatory publishing for sure. And there may be some good articles found even in predatory journals, but that is no reason to do anything about acknowledging the predatory journals, I guess.
And do you want to answer a question about ISSN, Tom?
That is not true. I mean, a journal without an ISSN, there can be many reasons, and often the reason is that the ISSN bureau in the country itself is not functioning in the right way, takes too long a time, and there may be all kinds of administrative problems. If, of course, a journal intentionally doesn't have an ISSN, then it just means that it will never be recognized as a quality journal. And they know. So it is the inverse. You need to an ISSN to be as one of the first criteria to be recognized as a good quality journal. But it's not that without an ISSN you are predatory.
Then a question, if a peer review period is so short, is it indicative of a predatory journal?
Often it is, because you even see articles being published with a peer review time of a few days or 7 days or even 2 days. And if there are many of these cases, then there is a good indication that this is a predatory journal.
And Fred's question, I guess it depends on local assessment and promotion processes. In my country and in my area, there was a National Journal of Sociology, and it wasn't a problem if my articles were published in just this one journal, because it was a flagship journal. But I guess it depends how it's considered in Ghanaian universities and in your system.
I mean, this is a two-sided question. I mean, if you publish only in one journal, then it doesn't look good, I guess, depending on what journal it is. But it also depends on the assessment system. And an assessment system shouldn't look at what journal you publish in. It should look at the articles that you publish. So that is the recommendation of the DORA initiative, as you know, about assessment of scientists and works. If an author would publish all of his works, or almost half of it, in a certain journal, and you look at the article level and you see that all the articles are okay, there is no reason why such a committee for promotion should say that there is something wrong. It's the focus of the committees shouldn't be on where you publish, but what you publish. I think that is the answer to that question from my side. I don't know what you think, Iryna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I type an answer about an African journal of performing arts. I couldn't find an African one, but I found 8 other journals, and I put a link to DOAJ search query. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to Daniel, DOAJ is one of the lists where you can see reputable publishers and organizations, open access ones. And then AGIL. And we'll share slides and recording with those who are late. Well, I mean, with everyone, but especially those who were slightly late. You could go through what we presented. For EPCs, what we do with EIFL, we negotiate waivers and discounts for researchers from Ghana. And of course, waivers and discounts is not a good way. The general policy should be that everyone who wants to publish should be able to publish, no matter whether there are funds or not. But unfortunately, we are still far from fair and transparent APCs, but things are changing. So what I can do, I can share with everyone when I'll be sending out slides and recording. I can also include information about discounted and waived APC that we negotiated a EIFL for authors from Ghana.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
And then another question about retraction. Do you want to take that?
What are the implications?
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on what kind of article it is. I mean, something that has been published and has been used, it will not go backfire on you. I think it will just be positive if you have a good reason to ask for a retraction of articles. And depending on how long ago it was or is, you can also consider publishing your data or a follow-up of your data in another journal. You don't lose your work, in a sense. It's always better to be transparent yourself about what you have done and to try to get the information that you have opened up for the world, bring it to the people that need it, and not let it sit somewhere that nobody wants to have a look at it. So again, the implications are depending on the people that judge if you are going to be promoted or whatever happens. The criteria that they use have to be changed and has to be taken into consideration that you do things like retracting an article, not lightheartedly. And that means that they have to be aware of why you do it. And they shouldn't say, now you have one article less, to make it simple. That is not the case, and it shouldn't be the case. I don't know about the real world circumstances. But at the moment, I think that many people are going along this kind of reasoning.
Then the next one, is it possible for a journal that has been listed under predatory particular year to become high quality reviewed journal? So what I often saw, because now we don't have a comprehensive list of predatory journals. There is a predatory journals website, but we don't know who is behind it and whether it's a rigorous workflow like DOAJ does, or whether it's just one person's opinion. And my feeling is that it's based on an opinion of one person or small group of people. So it's possible that by mistake, a high quality journal is listed there as predatory because people who maintain such lists didn't do a thorough quality check. And that's also an answer to David's question that there is no comprehensive list of predatory journals. And it's also not possible for EIFL to develop a software to detect predatory journals.
But I think also the state of mind that you have, and I have done some presentations, a lot of presentations on predatory problems, etc. But I'd say, if you want to publish your work, why would you start looking for where not to publish? You have to start looking where you can publish. Look at the lists of qualified journals. Look at AJL, Scopus, DOAJ, and ask your colleagues where they published. And don't bother about journals that are fishy and because perhaps they offer you an opportunity to be published within a week or whatever reason you might have. If you go on holidays or whatever, you want to buy something, then you are not going to look for the things that are bad. You are trying to find the things that are good. So focus on that angle and not on trying to find a list of everything that is bad. It's like having a country with a lot of hotels, and then the most important list is the list of the hotels that you shouldn't go to, which is a bit strange, I would say.
Do you have any more comments about Cable's list? Because before I didn't even use Bell's list because I didn't trust one person being able to check all predatory.
So Bill's list was a list that was maintained by one person, and the documentation of why a journal became listed was not findable for 2/3 of the cases. So Walt Crawford, who is a researcher who has done a lot of investigations into what journal documentation is there for Bill's list, is the source to look for if you are interested in the topic. But so the documentation is lacking. Nobody knows why a journal is on that list. And in many cases, it was just a journal that was okay. And it became on the list for other reasons. K-Bells is a different thing, but they have very transparent criteria why a journal gets listed as a predatory journal. And they also have something like low quality journals. So I think that there is not a very much of a real borderline between predatory and low qualities in Cable's list, because there are some of their criteria which are transparent, which are just saying that the journal is low quality and not necessarily predatory. But the problem with Cable's list is that it's a commercial list, and also the criticism that I have showed you of Cameron Nayland, that a blacklist or a predatory list can never be inclusive, and that you cannot get rid of that bad reputation by having been on that list once is still valid for Cabell's list as well. So the thing that they do is that they take advantage of people want to know if a journal is on the blacklist or on the Cabell's list. And to know that, you have to pay a lot of money, because you cannot even get that list of Cabell's without having a subscription to their quality journal list, which is also there. So it's not accessible for many people, and in my view, it's not really useful to put so much energy in finding out about the bad journals. Let it be just a topic for researchers who do research into the business of publishing scientific articles, and people who really want to publish useful articles go to the list of quality journals, which can be the quality journal list of Cabell's as well, or Scopus, or Web of Science, where you have to pay for access, or the DOAJ for open access journals, which is free.
And I agree with Dominic's comment that every journal has its focus, so I doubt all your articles will fit the scope of a single journal.
Yes.
There is a question, can you consider a journal contacting you to submit a paper as predatory?
No.
Some universities discourage their faculty from publishing in the first issue of the first volume of a journal. If you do, you are supposed to submit such issue for evaluation by a standard committee of that university. This does it really prevent faculty from falling victim of predatory journal? No, I don't know. I think it depends what kind of journal, because it might be a new flagship journal in the area, or it might be multidisciplinary journal, and there was no need for this journal before, but there is a need now because science develops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are many new journals coming every day.
And in order to be listed in DOAJ, you have to publish at least 5 articles, right, Tom?
Yes, per year.
Mm-hmm. So those new journals could still apply and be listed. And to answer Baba's question, a journal has to apply to be listed in DOAJ. And when you go to DOAJ, there is a button at the top which says apply. And there is also a lot of support information available, how to fill in the application form.
Yeah, I think that there is also a notion with some people that they think because of Scopus, Web of Science, etc., that you need to pay for DOAJ as well. I have heard that many times in conferences. And I think the DOAJ website is becoming much more transparent about what you have to do, and that it's free and how you have to apply. As of September, the site will look much different and much better. And also all the criteria have been worded in an easier way, so that it really will become clear what to do and what it means.
And there is an interesting question, is it advisable to archive predatory articles in institutional repositories? So I guess it depends whether an author wants to do that, and whether US university confident of the quality of this article, because it might happen, like we discussed before, that it's a good article, it just happened to be a victim of predatory journal.
Yes.
But I don't know, I've never seen any policies on that. It might be an interesting question to discuss with other institutional repository managers. I would say probably yes, if an author wants, and you as a university want to do that. But also if you don't want your name to be associated with any predatory activities, maybe that's a reason not to do that.
I think that you don't have predatory articles, as far as I know. So if an article is in a predatory journal, and the author wants to make it, to retract it, and it doesn't work, the least you can do is to put it somewhere that people can read it, and that it can be perhaps even commented on in certain platforms where you can publish your articles. And if you have published open access, then you can always, as an author, publish your work elsewhere, if you have your copyright, that is. So I think you have to just look at the possibilities. Where did you publish? What were the conditions? Did you keep your copyright? Is there any non-commercial clause in this publication process? If not, then leave it where it is and republish it somewhere where it's better put, I would say.
And I put a link to Director of Open Access Journals to Joseph's question, so it's in answered now. No. Yeah, and I think we already covered a lot of areas to look at to identify quality journals. If you miss some parts of it, we'll share slides and recording with everyone. And then I don't think a university-based journal could be categorized under predatory, because I'm sure university doesn't mean to do malpractice and just be there to exploit other researchers. So university journals.
I think also Fred Kayla here asked, there's the ambiguity of trusted indexes, etc. And then that the journal is also publishing low quality articles. I would say that is the reason that we have to start looking more at the article level. So it shouldn't be the case that you make the connection between a journal and a quality article. It is not so that everything that is being published in Nature or Science or PNAS, all these big journals, is good. There is evidence that some, and not a few of the articles in Nature and Science are never cited, you know?
Lettuce, oui. Lettuce, viva.
Sorry, Richard, your mic is on, but we...
Oh, sorry.
Then everyone who attends this webinar will receive presentations, so you don't need to submit your emails and addresses. Maybe David's question, what is the risk to student or researcher who cite an article in a predatory journal?
If you know, you can just not do it, I would say. Yeah, what is the risk? It depends on who is going to evaluate your work, if that is the risk. And you can always say that you didn't know.
And then can the names of editors or reviewers be used to detect predatory journals? So usually you wouldn't even have names of editors or reviewers on predatory journals websites. But of course, yeah, if you see like that medical journal that wanted me to review for them, they also wanted me to be an editor for that journal. And then of course, if you see me who has background in sociology as an editor of medical journal, then probably there is something wrong with that. And then we
but there is not a list of names of editors or reviewers of predatory journals. And it would, of course, be nice to have a big database of those names, but that is not there.
And then we might still have some questions in the chat, but we already almost on the top of 1.5 hours, and it would take some time to go through all chat messages. So what I can promise, if you submitted a question in a chat that we haven't addressed yet, we'll send you an answer. But otherwise, maybe we should wrap up.
That's correct. All right. Thank you very, very much, Tom. And thank you very much, Iryna. Iryna has been very, very helpful for.
Thank you very much.
To CARLIGH and all that. Thank you all of you for joining. Just a quick announcement. I just want to tell you that Ghana, we have a platform, online platform, what is called Ganjo. So we are trying to host all the local journals, credible local journals. We will not say credible, okay, well, let me say good local journals. We will look at a lot of things before we accept you. So the Ganjo is being hosted and managed by the Consortium of Academic and Research Libraries. So if you want to, you have a journal and you want to be listed, you can write to the chair of the consortium, the Ghana Consortium of Academic and Research Libraries. I'll send you the link to the email address so that you send it to the chair and ask for the journal to be listed. There are a couple of workshops, webinars that will be coming up in the next few months. We have in August, we are looking at institutional repository management. So this one is going to be for IRL managers. We will look at the issue of Akkad the following month, which is September. October, we'll also look at the research data management. And then in November, we'll look at assessment and research impact metrics. So all these are areas that are very important for librarians, for researchers and academics. So again, thank you very much. We had 540 people registering for this program, but unfortunately we had 135. So with this, we would definitely share the video, the recording to everybody. And as Iryna said, anyone whose question was not answered, she will look at it and then do the answer for you. And I believe that you have enjoyed this discussion. So we can have more discussion on this. And my name is Richard Bruce Lamptey. I'm the college librarian for College of Science, Department of University of Science and Technology. I'm the country coordinator for EIFL. So in case you also have issues, we can also discuss. And if it's beyond me, I can send it to Iryna or any other colleague to help. So we'll say again, thank you all for coming. Iryna, thank you very much. It's nearly 12 o'clock. Tom, thank you very much. God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, CARLIGH, and thank you everyone for attending today. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.